Hello folks, today I wanted to go over a way when you're building a grade book to be sure that you're actually getting the correct percentage based on the number of answers a student gets correct on their scores here against the maximum number of scores. Let's go over what the problems are on why this, how this works. So what we might think we could do is take the sum of this and divide it against the sum of what my scores are. But the issue is that's not going to account for the scores that aren't entered. So for instance, let's try that. If we say in this cell here, if we just say this is equal to the sum of B3 to J3, well, let's just go ahead and enter that. Okay, so this person has a total score of 9. Now, if we divided that against the sum of all of our assignments, notice we would, and you know, if we wanted to change that to a percent, I don't want to do that because I want to leave that in that format. But as you can see, that is not the score that we should get there, because it's taking this sum, and what we needed is a formula that only adds up the numbers that relate to, let me get rid of that, only adds up the numbers that relate to this. So for instance, in this case, if I have this, I'm adding that up, that's a sum of 9. I only want to add up these three. I don't want to add the whole column because they haven't done those assignments yet. So that's 13. Now we could pop up a calculator here and see that 9 divided by 13 is 0.6923. And that's exactly what our formula does. So let's jump into the formula. What I'm using here in this formula, I'm wrapping it, first of all, let's tear it apart. I'm wrapping it in an if error. And I'm saying if this formula that we've created here creates an error, which it will if you have no scores, because it'll be a divide by 0. So what we're doing is saying, if you get that error, let's put in no scores. And that's where I'm coming up with these no scores. And then I'm doing some conditional formatting on that. We can get to that. But then I'm using the BYROW function, the new BYROW lambda function. And I'm saying, let's examine this by row, B3 to K22. So I'm setting my range from B3 to K22. And then I have my lambda, and my lambda is setting my lambda as R, just giving it a random name. It could be X. And what I'm saying, and that is the data by row. So I'm saying, okay, add up this row data here, and then sum that row data. That is what I was showing you a moment ago. I'm summing this row, and then I'm dividing it by the sum product of B2 to K2. So that's the total assignments, and the sum product is B2 to K2, and I'm locking that reference. And then I'm saying where R, or where this row, any data in this row, is not blank. And what that does in the sum product is it says the R is greater than, less than, double quotes, says basically if it's not blank, it's a 1. If it's blank, it's a 0. So then you're sum producting, basically, let me put this away, you're sum producting 4 times 1 plus 4 times 1 plus 5 times 1 plus 4 times 0, 3 times 0, and so forth. That's how the sum product is working to give us the actual correct percentage that this student has for the tests that they've actually taken. And this allows the teacher, let me go ahead and hit that enter. This allows the teacher to go ahead and put in the max assignment scores and get an accurate calculation of the percentage correct that this student has for the assignments that he's turned in. And notice I only have this formula because it's a BYROW lambda. I only need to put it in here one time. I don't drag this formula down. In fact, if I did drag it down, I'd get an error on that first line. So let's go ahead and undo that. So this is the beauty of doing it this way. A single formula gives me my answers. Now, the rest of this I've done with some conditional formatting. I've said if the text is exactly no scores, which is generated when there are no scores entered, which is going to give you 0, and when you divide by 0, you're going to get a div 0 error. So when you get that, we're going to say it's going to populate it with no scores. And then if you take a look at this, what I've done is set it up so it's bold, italic, and red. Then I'm just doing sort of a standard, okay, I want to conditionally format colors, background colors in the text if it need be, when I'm greater than 0.9, greater than 0.8, greater than 0.7, greater than 0.6, and so forth. Sort of a standard way that I would conditionally format my scores so I could see them a little better. So that's it. Again, the important thing here is how to use the sum product function inside of a BYROW lambda function to give us, with a single formula, a way to actually calculate the correct percentage correct when you have not filled out all the assignments.